Hello guys and girls, Screezilla here, I hope you're all well. And welcome to the longest realistic battle in air I've ever been in. So, what have we here? Well, we are lucky enough to be in realistic battles Operation Boulogne-sur-Mer. Boulogne-sur-Mer. The English Channel map. Now you'll see on our team we have got jets, but relatively low tier jets because we've also got B-17s. Okay. We've also got prop planes. Okay. The enemy, similar layout really, because we are mixed battles here. We've got a bit of a mix of everything. So this mission, bloody hell, was it long. I don't know if this is a test or something they've put in, because I've never had this map. Well, I had this map on Enduring Conflict, but I've never had this map for realistic battle before, that I can recall. I've had the shortened map where you start off over the ocean there and attack the British coast. But I've never started in France and had to fly to Britain and back again, over the channel. Yeah, we're in for a long video today, guys. Get a cup of tea, pause this video, get a cup of tea, get a slice of cake or some biscuits, sit down and get ready for a long video of me talking. And I'll apologise in advance for it. So, we are in the B-29. The Super Fortress. What a beautiful plane it is. Just magnificent. On our team, we've got two B-17s. We've got a B-17G and a B-17 60VE. Oh, we've got two Gs, sorry. So, we've also got a B-24. Now, this puts us at a slight disadvantage, because if we had, say, 3 super fortresses, we could easily nuke their base. If we had a Lancaster on the team, we could easily nuke their base. But we don't have enough payload to do a single run here. I've got enough to take out about half of the bases, half of an airfield's health. But I need the bases taken out first, of course. And the other problem we have is we don't know what the enemy team has. Luckily for us, they had an R2Y2 and an Arado, along with a B-29 and a B-24. So they can't take out our airfield in one run either, because this would have been a relatively short game if that was the case. But even so, you can see here the size of this map. It is crazy. Flying at about 200 miles per hour here, 190 miles per hour. I'm still yet to leave France. And I've started out in air spawn, you know, away from the airfield. And this game has been going for almost 4 minutes, and I'm still not off the French coast yet. Oh boy. And I have all of this to go. So every one of these squares is going to take about 4 to 5 minutes to cross almost. This map is huge. Now, for jets, this can be really interesting, because jets only have about 20 minutes of fuel. So you've really got to channel dash back and land. But we're not in exclusively jets here. We have prop planes. And I feel this map is a little bit too big for realistic battle. Enduring Conflict, fine. Sim, fine. But for a realistic battle at this tier, it's just a bit too big. If I was in my Canberra, it wouldn't be too bad. I could probably do 2 bomb runs without too much trouble, maybe even 3 bomb runs. And, you know, you'd be zipping across the channel at 500 miles per hour each crossing, so it would take a lot less time, but when you've got planes only capable of really cruising at about 2 to 300 kilometers per hour, and even then that's at, level altitude, it does get problematic. And I don't want to lose altitude here. I need altitude because there might be fighters. So I'm trying to gain altitude, hence why I'm only going 190 miles per hour here. It is a very interesting game though, and that's why I'm showing the replay, because this game was really, really tense. It's actually the closest game I've had in a long time, and we'll get to that when we get to the end, of course. But the length of this game and the size of this map really changed a lot of things. Changed the dichotomy of the gameplay, because instead of everybody just climbing and fighting it out in the cesspit in the middle of the map, we actually could flank the enemy. I didn't see an enemy fighter all game. Spoiler alert there, of course, because this is a long, boring video, by the way. I'm not going to say anything more about that. It is very much a long, boring video. As you can see up here, there is 58 minutes of this. But the fact that a lot of people just crashed or jayed out at the start, couldn't be bothered even playing this map because it's too big, made a bit of difference. But also the fact that a lot of these fighters could only get to the coast and then have to go straight back. It really made for an interesting air engagement. So it's a very different gameplay, especially for realistic battle. It's a very different feeling, because you're in for the long haul here. It's going to take you at least 20 minutes to do a bomb run. At least 20 minutes. It's going to take you probably about 15 minutes to fly to the bombing area, at least. So you've really got to plan ahead. And it was quite interesting in that respect for the chat. I don't think it shows up in this replay, unfortunately. But everybody was chatting away in the global chat, and chatting to the enemies, and we were talking away, and everybody was actually having quite good talks for a change. We weren't all just, we weren't just getting, oh my god, you are the hacksaw elite dickhead, blah blah blah. We were actually having conversations, which was different and nice for a change. One of the enemy fighters who went down sort of midway through the game stayed until the end because he wanted to see how the game played out, because it was like almost like a game of chess. Really quite different. Let's go and have a look, see how this R2Y is going. R2Y2 even. It's like head on with a KI-87, and that's never a good idea because this thing is pretty deadly. It doesn't carry much bombs. It's only got an 800 kilogram bomb on board, but it's got some good guns on its front. So the KI-87 gets, sorry, the R2Y2, God, I can never say it, had a pretty good game there. Now, we're a bit too far out now to actually keep watching that stuff. And this was another thing that actually was really quite different, because once I actually got out across the channel here, I couldn't see my airfield. I can't see the health of it. I don't know how much health's left. Can't even see some of my bases. Can't even see their bases or airfield. So I had to actually use my map to work out locations. It was a really fun experience that I've not had in a realistic battle for a long time, actually plotting my course using a map. So we're almost 10 minutes in, and I'm almost halfway across the channel now. And other than the R2Y2, there's not been much contact because it's such a spread out area. You can see the majority of people are in this central part here. I imagine their bombers are going around this way, whereas our bombers are going around this way, of course. So we're circling to avoid all the fighters as much as possible. But even so, some of the bombers just went straight down the middle and didn't even get engaged. So the Yak 3's gone down from the LA9. Now, is this map good for realistic battle? I really don't think it is. I'm not sure if Gaijin's doing a bit of a test at the moment for this, trying out something different, but I feel like hour-long games is not for everybody. You don't have that time. You play a realistic battle to play about a 30-minute game at most, quickly get a game in, and then go out. A lot of people were complaining because they were heading off to bed soon and they thought they'd get a quick game, and they ended up having an hour-long gaming session. And that's why this kind of map is a bit iffy. Maybe having the option to have this style of map would be good, especially for bomber pilots, because this is just heaven for me, the boring arsehole that I am. But this kind of gameplay is perfect. Let's just switch to the player view here. Because this is what I want to do in a bomber, actually bomb things. And it would have been nice if I had more to bomb than just, a couple of silly little targets on the ground, such as the airfield and the bases. I think some realistic bomb sites would be really nice. But unfortunately we don't have that in-game, and it doesn't look like it's going to come anytime soon. But we live with what we've got. At least I can do a decent bombing run. One decent bomb run this game. And that's something that I'm salivating over, because it's so rare that you get the chance to actually bomb an airfield without having to think about, oh, there's going to be a fighter on my tail anytime soon. Chances are at 20,000 feet, you're not going to see too many fighters, especially when you're out of the corner of the map, circling around. The good thing about doing it this way, of course, is it does give me a really nice flat path for the airfield, but I do need these bases taken out. Now, it shouldn't be too hard for the two B-17s and B-24. So as you can see, greyed out, I can't even click on any enemies to see them because they're too far away from me. We have the F7 F1 here, who's actually doing some sort of slight escort duties of B-17s and the B-24s here. But we just were so far apart, there wasn't really anything you could do. You can see I'm 32 kilometres out from this spot. The B-24 here, it's such a wide map, and it's great for bombing because it's just so much fun. Now, turning into my target run here, so I'm starting on my approach run. And of course, I'm saying in chat, I hope you guys get those bases down before I get to the airfield, because I really don't want to circle. Being that this is time critical to get a second run in, circling can actually really endanger your chance of getting that second bomb run in. Because it's taken almost half a game, well, quarter of the game to get to this point, and I still need to land, rearm, take off, and then get back here to do another bomb run. I also need to get back to base as well, which is going to take me another 15 minutes or so. So in an hour game, I can only do 2 bomb runs. I only have enough time for 2 bomb runs. That's it. So it makes it very interesting. Now, it looks like the B-24 has crashed. So that's good. Now, a little bit of a weird bug, unfortunately, for Mod there. He hit the B-24 and it went down crashing from him, but bugged out and just crashed and didn't give him the kill, which is a bit sad. It's a bit of a shame. So B-24 drops on the base and drops 1 in bomb shy. Now, unfortunately, with the American 500 pounders, you need to drop 7 bombs to kill a base. So he was working off 6 bombs, of course, and it was 1 shy, so we just had that little bit of health left. Not to worry though, there's another B-17, there's a pit of B-17s around there. They should be able to sort it out in time. So, back to the thoughts on this style of map and gameplay for general gameplay. It's, as I said, I think it's too big for a realistic battle with anything but top tier jets. I would love to have a game on this map with top tier jets. I would love to have my Canberra on this map to test out the bomb runs, because it would be interesting to see how many I can actually get in. I reckon I could get 3 bomb runs in, maybe 4. you've got an interesting sort of interesting balance there, and also because the fighters will have such fuel limited range, they'll actually have to think about it before fighting, which is kind of what we want from realistic battles sometimes, because fuel is not really a problem in War Thunder. It can be, but only if you take minimal fuel, things like that. In a game like this, where you have to take maximum fuel because you need it to get across the pond and back, it really does make a difference. But then you also have the chance of somebody defending. If you stick near your airbase, if our team stuck here and brought the enemy in, they would have more fuel than the enemy, so they would have a bit longer fighting time, be able to chase them, things like that. It really does make for an interesting gameplay, but as I say, for props, it's a little bit too big. But as I said, as a bomber, this kind of map really made me excited. So one base gone, so we've got 2 bases left. So I'm here screaming at my fellow players, going, who's taking which base? Come on guys, make sure the base is down. I really do not want to have to do a circle, because I've got a perfect run on the airfield here. I'm actually slightly off because I'm pondering about this base, but I'm thinking, alright, these guys have got it. Okay, I can live with this. We'll be okay. So, a few interesting things about the B-29. I'm not doing a full history of video here, by the way. It's a bit of a snippets thing. One of the interesting things about the B-29 was actually after the war. It became part of the Stratovision company, which would do television across the United States. Because the broadcasting antenna for Stratovision usually hung beneath the flight, it naturally has a greater line of sight for transmitting. So they after the Second World War, they actually used the B-29s to fly at about 30,000 feet every night to broadcast television across the United States. A bit like how we use satellites now, but of course in the atmosphere. So the B-29 was an early satellite, basically, and I found that quite interesting. It was capable of giving America about 78% of the population television coverage in the 1950s and early 1960s. And it's just an interesting fate for a plane that was designed for, a military purpose, of course. It ended up doing a lot of civilian things. Now, this plane also had passenger variants, it had fuel tanker variants, I think even the British used it as a radar plane at one stage, transport planes, it was used for many things. But one of the oddest is definitely Stratovision, with the Glenn L. Martin Co. and Westinghouse Electronic Corporation, who used it for television. I did not know that, so something a bit interesting and a little bit different. Of course, the thing the B-29 is most well known for is dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It wasn't designed for this role, though. The B-29 was actually sort of started out in the early 40s. And originally it was going to be used in the European theatre. Based out of Egypt, it was going to be flying, and it was going to be flying over Germany, of course. But this didn't happen, mainly because the Egyptian campaign, things like that, caused issues, and they ended up using the B-29 exclusively over the Pacific theatre, although one B-29 did fly over Europe. One of the testbed planes, I think it was a YB-29, which is usually would have the army paint job on it rather than their aluminium paint job, which is just gorgeous, by the way. God, it's so pretty. But they used it to drop propaganda leaflets over Germany in 1944, 44, I think it was. Late 44 or something around there, just towards the end of the war. The first flight of this plane was actually 21st of September in 1942. Um, it wasn't a new plane in the war. You know, many people think this came around at the end of the war when, you know, it only came in towards the very last days of the war. It was a sort of secret project worked on, you know, as the war went on, but it was being worked upon before the Americans really joined the war. And that's a really interesting fact about this plane is, you know, the Americans knew they needed something better than the B-17, which, in all intents and purposes, was a very good bomber. Of course, the B-24 was a fantastic bomber as well. The Liberator did a massive job over Europe, and it's one of those forgotten planes, much like the Hurricane. It lives in the shadow of the Spitfire. The B-24 lives in the shadow of the B-17. Now, you think of a B-29 as a super high altitude bomber, but it wasn't always used for that. The B-17 was actually a very good low-level bomber too. It was used very successfully over Japan to do low-level low-level incendiary bomb runs at night time. And that's another thing that people forget, is this thing was used for nighttime bombing as well as daytime bombing. So it had a multiple array of purposes, and it was very good at low altitude, which is surprising considering it was designed for flying at, you know, 20, 30,000 feet. Now, the B-29 had a pretty long career as well. It didn't cease to have service after the war. It was still in service until the mid to late 50s with some nations. And it did reasonably well as well. It was a very decent plane. Of course, it was the last real effective prop bomber to be used. Bombs out there. So that's our first bomb run done and dusted. Now, as I was talking there, our team managed to get those bases cleaned out, but I did have to circle around. So, Fraser Chinese and Clark 2002, they managed to sort it all out. As I said, it took a little bit of time because they had to work out their bomb loads, but we got it. And we managed to take the airfield down to around about 25% health taken away from it. So we need to do one more bomb run to actually kill it. Bombs are a little bit off to the side there. Had a little bit of bomb float off to the left, which is not too common actually. Usually I get a pretty good spot on positioning, but it just seemed to drift a little bit that run. Still managed to cause 8.63 tons of damage though, so I think it's about, I think I missed out on about 0.8 of a ton there of damage that I could have caused, so not much difference, but all these little things help. So now it's on our way home. So who's left in the game? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enemy planes left. We only have 4 friendlies left. We've only got 1 fighter left in the sky. And unfortunately the vehicles have appeared, the instant win vehicles. So we're in a bit of a pickle. Now this is where Mode does a fantastic job of keeping that area clean. When the enemy were attacking, and I'll just a quick shout out for Dark Warrior here, he's the guy that stays till the end. Everybody did fantastic trying to win this game. It was such a fun game all in all. Although it's a long, boring game, it was very intense. So, as I was saying, Mode and the MiG did a fantastic job of keeping those cars safe. Now we do lose a few. You'll see in the battle notifications there that they start to get damaged and killed. But they don't all die too quickly, which is a really good thing. Because if, of course, the enemy take them out, we lose the game instantly. course, you have, I think it's 3 sets of vehicles to kill. I can't see them on my screen. But we had to take out landing craft, which is a pretty awful task, really. Sorry, excuse me. Um, having to take out landing crafts is very hard because you can't drop bombs on them. You have to shoot them, basically. Because the bomb physics in water is very, very wonky in War Thunder, unfortunately. And that does really mess up your ability to take out naval targets. Unless you skip a bomb into a ship, you're generally not going to get very good strikes. It's why bombing carriers is a bit iffy. Sometimes the bombs will just fall straight through the ship and it won't cause any damage. So I really do hope Gaijin do fix that for naval battles. It would be nice to have a whole new modelling system for ships and actually be able to cause damage to them with bombs. Because of course if a bomb goes off just under the surface of the water, the pressure underneath the water is so high it will absolutely rip apart the hull of a ship. So I'm just basically half throttle here, going down, scrubbing off altitude. And this is the thing that took me by surprise. Now we're 26 minutes into, almost 27 minutes into the game here. We're almost halfway through the game. And I'm not back onto my coastline yet. I still have about 30 odd, 40 odd kilometres to go until I hit the airfield. It's crazy. I thought the B-24 was actually landing at this stage. And no, he still had about, he was only halfway, he's not even halfway there, look. You can see the distance there. It's just ridiculous how big this map is. It's jaw-dropping, but it's just crazy. Now, the MiG has just taken off, rearmed and refueled. So we've got the enemy B-29 flying to our airfield, to his airfield, there we go, so he's going in for the landing. We've got the F-8F here, which is about to do some attacks on the ground, I'd say. So he's circling around, sort of being, I'm bored. But you can see the vehicles there. And if they go, we are screwed royally. And here we have the MiG-9. So, sorry, excuse me for grunting and coughing up stuff. I'm still getting over that cold, and also I'm sorry for saying so much, but I'm probably going to say right a bit more as well. So we've got the MiG-9 here, the jet, and luckily it's got relatively good fuel load on it, so it can keep to the skies pretty well. And he's got to protect us from the vehicles getting killed, because if they take out those vehicles, it is game over for us. Now, we can still win this game by destroying their airfield, but we don't have much time to do it. As you can see, I need to land and get back in the air again, and I'm still a long way out from the airfield here. I'm scrubbing a lot of altitude as well because, well, I need to get low and slow for the landing, so it is going to take a little bit of time here. But we'll sit on board the MiG for a little bit of time and see how this goes. Now, another interesting thing about the B-29 was the B-50 variant, which was designed with larger fuel tanks. And I think it also had some drop tanks as well. And it was the first aircraft to fly non-stop around the world. So another interesting thing there about this plane. Well, not this plane, about the plane. Of course, the Russians had their own, the Tu-4, which we have in the game, which is just such a fun plane. But the Tupolev Tu-4 was a reverse-engineered variant. After a B-25... after a B-29, I think it was emergency landed or crash landed behind enemy lines. So they had that, luckily. Now we've got the MiG coming in here nice and fast. A little bit scary speed here. The F-8F is killing the vehicles. How will the Bearcat fare? And he is down. great job there by Mode. Really, really good job there. So, thankfully, those vehicles are safe now. Nice little squeeze of the trigger, a fantastic attack run. Much better than I can do. The Americans refused to give the Soviets the B-29 for the Lend-Lease program. However, I think 4 of them performed emergency landings in Soviet territory, and 1 crashed after the crew bailed out. Because they were neutral in the Pacific War, the bombers were kept by the Soviets, despite Soviet neutrality. Americans demanded them to be returned, but the Soviets refused. 3 of the B-29s were repairable, and they were repaired by the Russians and flown to Moscow and delivered to Tupolev. 1 of them was completely dismantled and then reverse engineered, and we got the Tu-4. So let's hop back over and see how we're going. So I'm starting my landing approach here because I think, oh, I'm close to the airfield now. Not looking at my map. I'm still about 20 kilometers out. This is how insane this map is. So the enemy still has a looks like they've got a pair of fighters up. Let's have a look, see. So they've still got 2 fighters up by the looks of it. So we're still in a bit of trouble if they get towards our vehicles. So Mode is keeping up over there and protecting them basically, and doing a fantastic job of it, while we try and rearm, get back in the sky and get back to the bases in time. But as you can see, it's very, very touch and go if we're going to make it here, because it's taken us half an hour to do that 1 run, and I'm still not landed. We still have B-17 about 3 kilometers out, so Fraser Chinese there is coming in on me, but you know, it's still going to take us about probably 5 minutes to do this landing. You know, it's just insane. But we've got to land nonetheless. We don't really have much choice in this matter. I mean, we can't exactly... We could possibly go hunting enemy planes, go gunship mode, but we're better off rearming and trying to destroy the airfield first, because we got more chance of that happening than we have of taking down a J7W1 or a MiG-9. Both of those are pretty capable vehicles with some very nasty cannons on board. Of course, we've also got an Arado and a B-29 to face as well, and it's going to be hit or miss if we get those. The Arado will be able to fly rings around us. I don't know if the B2 has got the guns on board, though. I can't remember if it's got the guns or if it's just the bomb variant. Yeah, I can never remember with those planes. Still need to unlock them at some stage. But German bombers are so awful at the moment. I was talking to somebody the other day, actually. Here we go, story time. And we were chatting about why the Allied teams always have so many bloody bombers on the team, because they were complaining because we had 4 bombers, 3 Wyverns, and 2 Spitfire and a Seafire. And the enemy German team had, of course, every single fighter known to man. And they were saying, well, what's the point in playing bombers? Well, one, bombers are fun for us. You know, I really do enjoy bombers, and also it's a good way of making some Lions as well. But that's just a side project for me. I actually just enjoy the bombing aspect because I'm a weirdo. But the biggest problem is the Germans don't actually have a very good bomber. B-24 is just down. Just touched down there. Nice soft landing. And as you can see, we've got a B-29 and a B-17 coming into land as well in formation, which is nice. Unfortunately, it's a small airfield, so it's going to be a bit of a iffy landing with if we don't scrub off enough speed. It's kind of disappointing to have this small dirt airfield because it means you can't take off in the B-29. Now, scrubbing speed off here, I'm putting flaps down and tailing up and down and left to right using my rudders just to scrub off speed as we go. But as I said, the reason that everybody plays Allied bombers is because they're the only bombers that are worth playing. And it becomes a real shame because there's not much you can do with any other nation's bombers. The Russians have an okay bomber. Now, as you see there now, the MiG-9 is attacking the vehicles. So we could very well lose this match soon. You can probably tell that we're not going to lose this match soon. So start deploying my landing gear because I've scrubbed off enough speed. A little bit late to deploy the landing gear in all honesty. I wish I'd taken a little bit more speed off. But we're coming in nice and slow. We're dropping down to 130 miles per hour. Pull the nose up a little bit. Pop her down, nice and soft there. Textbook, beautiful landing. One of the hardest things to do in the B-29 was actually landing it. Mainly because of the pilot's position. They had an awful time seeing the front of the plane. And a lot of B-29s crashed upon landing. It was quite a common thing to happen. Landing and takeoff was the most dangerous part of this plane's flight. Even Doc and Fifi, I think it's Doc and Fifi, the two flying B-29s, they still have problems with the landing and takeoff. So, engine off, B-17, beautiful landing there as well. Got the Americans there, and we are rearmed, and we're back in the sky. And as I say, unfortunately we get an air spawn because the runway's a bit too short to take off. So, Mr. T is causing us an awful lot of problems down there in his MiG. Now, we're very much on the cusp of cutting off from this plane because we're almost 30 kilometres out, as you can see, and we're just on our airfield here. You know, it's insane, really. So, Mode is just waiting out for the blind hunt to finish by the looks of it. So, he can go in unspotted, which is a really good idea, and hopefully take out the enemy's MiG before it destroys all our cars. Now, this was a little bit tense in the game because, well, we're running a bit short on cars now. Things are not looking good. He's going into a dive. Looks like he's going into an attack run. So the enemy's J7 thingamabob, J7W1 managed to crash. Don't know where, don't know how. Possibly on landing, stuffed it up. But no idea about that one. So that's good. So there's only one fighter on each team now. But there is the Arado and the B-29 of the enemy team. Luckily, our airfield is just got enough health to survive an attack from the B-29. But the Arado could possibly put it over the edge just about. But it would have to be an absolutely perfect hit, I think. It's very close to being not possible for them to win here. They'd have to attack vehicles to win. They can't win by the airfield. However, we have the B-24, B-17 and B-29 up. Now, the B-24 has the 500-pound bombs on it. The B-17, I think, has got the 2,000-pounders. I think it's only... And there we go, we've lost contact, unfortunately. So the B-17 has the 4 or 6 2,000-pounders. I think it's 6 off the top of my head. Probably wrong about that, actually. I'm trying to think of the payload. But all in all, we don't have many bombs. If a couple of our bombs miss, we are screwed. So all our bombs need to be on target here. they need to have all their bombs on target plus a little bit extra. So the only way that the enemy can win is by taking out vehicles. Now I would love to show you what's happening over there with the MiG-9s, but they are sadly out of range. We do have a B-29 coming into range again. As you can see, it's 10,000 feet above us, coming in. Nice approach, coming in for the airfield. Now I don't know what payload this B-29 has either, so could have the 2,000 pounders, 1,000 pounders, or 500 pound bombs on board. Now, we still don't have any other planes in range though. So the Arado hasn't got any bombs on board. So that's good news for this late in the game. It means that the Arado will have to go back to base to get bombs, of course. So it's got 40 bombs on board. That will mean it's the 500 pounders. So a bit harder with the 500 pounders because you've got more bombs that need to hit the base, but you do have slightly higher capacity than the 1,000 pound bombs. If all your bombs hit with this loadout, you're going to do a bit more damage. As you can see, he's done 8.87 tons of damage, whereas I've only done 8.6. That's not a huge amount of difference between them, but it can be the difference between a game win and a game loss. It's amazing how these little things make differences. So not much is happening, as we can see. The enemy B-29's flying in. It's a shame this is a mixed battle as well, but I guess it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, because if this wasn't a mixed battle, then there wouldn't really be many other planes on board. We could have got some Tu-4s maybe, but being a mixed battle here, it does make it a little bit more interesting, at least because we've got similar bombers on our teams. And Model Halo Gamer has taken out T in the MiG-9, which is fantastic news. As you can see here, our tickets are very low though. We are grasping to life, and we only have 15 minutes to get across the pond, get on target, drop our bombs to win the game. This is where it's going to get a bit tense. So in the chat here, we were chatting about the game really, and the enemy were talking away to us, as you do. Now Dooley here, I think, is going to go for the airfield, which did cost him the game in this respect, because if he'd used them on the cars, then it would have been a much easier way to clean up those vehicles. The Arado's got a new bomb on board, so that's the danger. Now, if Dooley had gone for the vehicles with the bombs, it could have really made this a lot closer. But it looks like Dooley's going down quite low, diving to try and get to that airfield as quick as possible. Which is a bit of a dangerous approach. It's a bit of a risky approach here, because you want to be at least 10,000 feet to avoid the AAA. And unfortunately, the MiG-9 has crashed. Model Halo Gamer was going for the landing craft to try and even out the scores, but sadly did not pull up in time and met with a watery grave. So Dooley here in the B-29 is coming in, getting ready, lining up on the airfield. As I say, it's a bit of a risky approach coming in this low. Speed is on the side, but it's still not that fast, and you have to be very careful because the AAA guns over airfields are deadly. Flak is your biggest foe in a bomber. I kind of would like more flak sometimes, because it doesn't feel there's enough high altitude flak, but I'm glad there isn't as much. And we are out of range. As I say, this is the crazy thing about this map, is you just go out of range so quickly. Well, not quickly, but so much. As you can see, we're a good... We're sort of halfway across the map now, but we're probably about 40-50 kilometers away from the airfield. And it's just crazy. We can't even see the airfield now. That's how far away we are. So, Doolybird there is going to be dropping the bombs on the airfield very shortly. And we have to haul ass and get across in this map and try and get that airfield before they manage to take down ours or take down the vehicles. Now, as I said, I don't think they could actually do the airfield at this stage, so the vehicles are their best bet. Being that they've lost their fighters, it makes it a lot harder. Let's just check. And looks like Dooley's managed to hit one of our AAAs as well. So let's have a look-see at the 234B2. I would just click on him and have a look, but apparently that's not working. And we've got a very quiet B29 as well. Apparently our sound is not working either. Okay, there we go. No, it doesn't have guns in that plane. So, only bombs. So, capable of carrying 150 kilograms of bombs, which can do some damage, but don't think that's going to destroy the base. It's a shame we've lost the sound on this plane. We'll switch to the B-17 for a little bit. So their only hope now is to take out vehicles, and the only plane they've got to really do a good job of it is the B-29. So it's going to have to gun the vehicles down, which is very, very tricky. Gunning in a bomber is kind of hard sometimes, because if you start gunning while you're in a bit of a dive, sometimes the plane won't auto-correct and auto-level up, so you will end up crashing without knowing. And of course, because you're not really watching where you're going, you're looking at what you're firing at, a lot of people do tend to crash, which is not great. You see it quite a few of the time, quite a lot of the time. People crashing because they're not watching where they're going, simply because they're using their guns too much. Advice to bomber pilots is, you know, look where you're going as well as you're gunning. That's why I always say it's good to get the advanced gunners, because the AI gunners on that do a lot better for you. They tend to work really, really well, so they can be a very good idea, and you don't have to worry too much about flying and gunning at the same time. You still need to do it occasionally, but not as much, thankfully. So off we go. Still going. We're on the 50th minute of this game and this video as well. If you've stuck around this long, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments if you have. If you've managed my monotonous talking all this time, then you are doing a fantastic job. And not all my videos are going to be this long, just so you know. I do have a few long ones out there, especially when I get chatting or ranting, to say. Or there's a couple of speculative videos as well, which are actually relatively long. But I generally try and keep it to around about 30 minutes, because that's a nice sort of digestible time for a video. Now, as I said, a few of the down pilots from our team and the enemy team were still talking, especially Dark Warrior and Mode. They were chatting away and watching the gameplay as we went, which was quite interesting. We were talking away, who's going to win this match. It's getting close. It's starting to get very tense because we only have 10 minutes of time left to get to the bases. And as you see, we're still a long way out from the base. The airfield, Frey over there is almost 20 kilometers, well, 18, 20 kilometers away from the base still. It's going to be very touch and go, very close call to get to that target in time. And if that B-29 is getting close to the ground, or if that Arado manages to destroy our airbase or destroy those vehicles, even if the Arado just suicided into me, it would be game over for us. We can't win. So it's a very tense few minutes here, and I've not had this tension in a long time with War Thunder, where I've been absolutely on the edge of my seat, sort of biting my nails. I was really talking to the team, going, okay, make sure to hit this point, make sure to fly this height, make sure to do this and this. Even a stray, flak shell could be game over for us. This is why I've flown this odd route, to try and avoid the ships here, so there's less chance of flak hitting me. And I was sort of saying to some of the other players, try not to get hit by flak too much, make sure you keep your altitude up, blah blah blah. The enemies were chatting away, and we were talking, game over if we destroy your airfield. And then Dooley was saying how, well, same if we take out a few of your vehicles. And it's kind of a bit of a stalemate here, because we're sort of very close to the airfield, and he's probably right on top of our vehicles about now, getting some altitude dropped to sort of gun the vehicles down. So I'm watching the battle box, waiting to see if the vehicle gets destroyed. And I'd love to see what the Arado was doing, but I can't, because I don't actually know where he was all game. I didn't really see him that much at all in this game. And that's another thing with this map. I didn't see another plane all game, pretty much. I didn't see an enemy plane all game. And that's a very strange feeling. It was quite a lonely game. If I didn't have fellow bombers with me, it would have been extremely dull. And extremely lonely. Of course, if these guys had just done one bomb run and jade out, we would be in a situation where we can't win as well. So we're very lucky to have two extra bombers on board, because we did have two B-17s, but one of the B-17s, I think, just jade out after he dropped his bombs and just, went to another game. If we'd had that extra B-17, this would have been a bit easier and a bit less tense. But as it stands, we only have enough bombs to just about destroy the airfield. But we need all the bombs to hit, and that's the hard part. So right there is where I see it happen. Vehicle gets destroyed by the B-29. Destroyed. Now, with the vehicles, if you destroy a group of them, the tickets will go down. You need to destroy all of them in that circle of vehicles. I think we've already lost one group of vehicles. There's only 1.5 remaining. So that was his first pass, and he's taken him out. But then it happened. He was too busy watching the guns and crashed. Boy, was that close. We are literally just approaching the airfield now. The B-17's a little bit out, but we are pretty much on top. If he'd taken out one or two more vehicles, it would have been game over for us. But we have just got a reprieve on the hangman has loosened the knot for us a little bit for the time being. He's not swung that axe yet. We have a few seconds to spare. So let's switch to the free camera here. And bomb bay's open. And the airfield is in sight. We're getting very close here. Will the Arado, though, be the changing factor? Because if we don't get that B-17 in here, we don't have a chance of destroying this airfield. So it is so close right now. It is getting very, very tense and very scary. And as you can see, those flak guns are starting to open up on us as well. Will we get hit by flak? Now the Arado is nowhere near us, so probably it's hanging around over the heading towards the vehicles right now. Flak guns are firing. The airfield sirens will be going. People will be running around like headless chickens. So we're getting close. It's getting close. More flak is firing. Now my bombs are out from here. You can see my bombs have been dropped. B-24's bombs hit. The base is at about 25% health. My bombs hit. They are all perfect and on target, and as you can see, they are pretty much on the spot. But we just need this last B-17 to hit them. And he's coming in at just under 8,000 feet. He's actually taken a little bit of damage here as well from the ships before. One of these flak shells hitting this cockpit here, and it's game over. We only have 2 minutes of gameplay left. We are right on the edge of disaster here. B-17 is getting closer and closer. The flak starts hitting it. You can just hear little bits of metal pinging off the plane. It's getting so close to the bomb drop. Flak is coming up. One shell bursts right above the pilot's head. Just past the wing. That was so close there. Flown through a big chunk of flak. Bombs are out. And it's hit. The plane has been hit. The B-17 has managed to drop its bombs, but it is hit and badly wounded. He only had 4,000 pounds of bombs on board, only the two 2,000 pounders underneath the plane by the looks of it. Will they hit the base? Did that flak take it off? Yes, they hit! And it is game over. The victory is ours. Such a close victory there. This game was over in about a minute and a half's time. We literally had no time to spare. I think, as you can see here, the B-17's down from the AAA. That's how close it was to loss there. That is just, you know, I didn't even realise he'd been hit by the AAA in that last bit. Fantastic job from the team there, the bombers on the team, and the fighters, of course. So I must say a big thank you for Model Halo Gamer, Clark 2002, for Fraser Chinese, and the players on the team who just were fantastic. Doolybird and Dark Warrior, thank you very much for the chatting throughout that game. It made a huge difference. What a game. What a whopper. So, the two B-17s there ended up scoring over 5,000 points. I made about 1.25 thousand lions and a fair bit of research points in that game. But it was so very, very close. Okay guys, if you have lasted this long and watched this video, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, it was a very tense, close game there. It really did end with a minute to spare almost. You know, we were right on the edge of losing there. If that flak had hit the B-17 a couple of seconds earlier, it would have been game over. So you can see just that difference it makes. Yeah, what a game, that's all I can say. interesting game being on that size map as well. I can't say I'm a huge fan of it because it does take a long time, as you saw from the video. But it's good to see that larger maps are making an appearance in RB. So hopefully we will get some different maps and slightly larger maps, because it gets a bit tiresome playing Korea every time, where it's a map the size of a post-it stamp. Alright guys, until next time, have a lovely day, and this is Screezler out. Bye bye.